Hi, I'm Emily Bridgewater, and I am presenting a professional development about utilizing student ownership with blended learning and technology. So, blended learning is this idea of a station rotation model, and it is where there are three groups throughout the classroom, and students are placed in each of those groups. Well, there's one group where the teacher is sitting down with the students and leading a, a teacher led group. Um, Blended learning can be inclusive to all students because you're really focusing on that student's strength and putting them into different groups that would really help them grow. This is not a traditional way of learning, and there is technology. And considering that the teacher is at a group with a small group of students, a lot of teachers' concerns are, what do I do about a group that is over there messing around and I'm over here in my student group? I can't be putting out fires while trying to teach this small group. Um, and I've noticed that a lot of teachers have come and said, I'm having trouble with classroom management and I'm having trouble with trying to find technology that I can integrate to keep them engaged so that I don't have to put out so many fires throughout the day. That's all kind of what we need if we're going to be doing a model like blended learning. Um, so, setting up, first of all, your station rotation blended learning model, the teacher needs to have a series of assessments that can gauge where the student falls. Next, the teacher should place groups together into high, medium, low, medium, and then medium low group. You can give your students various diagnostic assessments, and all of their placement should be based off of those assessments. And the class will be working in those groups and rotating in those groups throughout the room. Each station is set up. One is a technology station, one is a collaborating station, and lastly, one is a teacher-led station. You can throw in another station, and it can be their independent station, which has also been helpful too. I've noticed in my own classroom. So if you look at this chart on the board, I know I'm kind of doing this a little old fashioned, but my school hasn't opened yet and I don't have access to a projector. So your placement of students, how I set it up, I color code them. So I have a group 1, a group 2, and a group 3. Each student is placed based off of their strengths, and they'll be going to that group at the beginning of every class and moving in that group. So the blue group, according to my chart, is the computer station. The yellow group is the teacher-led group, and then the orange group is the independent collaborating group, whichever one you want to choose for that. Placement is key here. Your engagement and your groups are really going to play on how well your students are engaged into it. And if they're with their friends, that can pose a problem. And if they're placed just kind of freely, then that also brings up a lot of frustration. Well, with blended learning, you are also given this lovely gift of personalized learning. And personalized learning gives students different options to learn from. So you might have a student who is better listening to something with headphones in. You might have a student who's better at drawing or talking or discussing about it. So blended learning can set your students up for a more compatible way of learning the content. And if you truly know your students, you will be able to really spearhead this and take it to the next level. Like I said before, classroom management is probably the hardest part of blended learning because again, I've talked to several teachers who use blended learning but struggle with the classroom management part. A way students can be managed during blended learning is the use of student ownership. With reflection, the student has to look at how well they did learning the content. This is a skill that has to be learned and modeled by the teacher to be properly placed. So, what student ownership brings is kind of like what we do as teachers. We take a minute, we self-reflect, we try very hard to look at what we've done, look at how we can fix that, and what else there is that we can do to make it better. So, with classroom management, teachers need to bring up, maybe create a tool that can be sent out via OneDrive, Google Docs, Microsoft Classroom, whichever one is easier. And the students can take a minute in their technology group, because this can easily be a technology station. And you can give the student kind of like a self-reflection, a self-assessment, whether it's a survey, whether it's them typing out an entire long description about what they learn and how they can apply that. One way that I've seen this really work in my classroom is I give my students a playlist, and they go through the playlist. It's exactly what it sounds like. A playlist is just like a music playlist where we can pick a song, like what we would want to listen to, and then listen to it. Well, it's the same in the classroom. You can get your playlist and read various articles. You can watch videos. You can even put podcasts in there that could help your student learn more about whatever the content or the standard is. And this can definitely be a station in your blended learning model. So the student will reflect using the survey and comment about what they truly thought about the lesson, because in turn, while they're self-reflecting about their learning, we're also going to take this and we are going to learn from it and try and figure out ways to enhance our lesson. So, how that looks, you can send it out, like I said, on OneDrive or Google Docs, and the students can really focus on what worked, what didn't work, what can be used in the future. If you look at all of your tables, you have, and on your OneDrive, because we sent it out through OneDrive, you have a playlist yourself on student ownership and reflection ideas. You are going to look at your playlist, review the playlist, and go through each category. This is also accompanied with a worksheet that goes with it. And so go ahead and click on your OneDrive. You go to your employee portal and you go to the sidebar and you just click Microsoft Office and you go to OneDrive. Note, OneDrive is a lifesaver when it comes to blended learning, because you really get to share different documents and different articles and different lessons with your students, and it's all electronic. So if you're one of those people that loves computers and can really get on board with this, OneDrive will be your best friend. And it can be used as a station. Side note. So if you look at these worksheets, you have your playlist. So this is an example. This is actually your example. And you can set it up just like ours, but flexible playlists, student reflection, and ownership. So this is to help you come up with ideas of how you would want to do your student reflection and ownership. So we gave you 3 categories: reflection and feedback, goal setting, self and peer evaluation. So if you want them to also have a peer evaluation, that can also be beneficial, and you can also do it through OneDrive as well. So you're going to complete all of the green bracketed must do. Those are all the ones that you need to read over or look over. And if you have time, if you're taking your time reading, take a look at the may do, which is in the purple bracketed sections. For each topic, after completing the activities, answer the check for understanding. So we put it right on the side that said topic, resources, and then check for understanding. Those are the same questions that are on your worksheet. And then so we will give you about 10 minutes to do each section. 10 minutes, 15, we'll check and see where we're all at. But consider just skimming all of them, because I think a lot of them have some really good information, and it can really impact your students. If there is not a link that is working, you need to use Google Chrome, because that is a lot faster. So at your tables, you have the student reflection and ownership worksheet, and your objective: participants will define student reflection and ownership, explore strategies, and set commitments for classroom implementation. So you're gonna just start out, before you rate yourself on what you know about student reflection and ownership, and be honest, because maybe this is somewhere where you really need to grow and you don't want to just call it good on the first circle and say, oh, I don't need to know anything. So your reflection and feedback, you're just looking at what are current tactics for student reflection. If you have reflection protocol, are students receiving meaningful feedback? Consider one way to amp up the reflection and feedback in the classroom. So I like the idea of using Google Docs or Google Forms or Microsoft OneDrive or OneNote, because OneNote also has a lot of really interesting resources that teachers can use. Your next section is goal setting. Where can goal setting live within your classroom? Commit 10 minutes within your next week of instruction for students to set goals around learning targets. Explain what that will look like. So the second section is about goal setting, and you're going to be given articles where you can really look and see what are different ways for students to goal set, because goal set isn't just a school thing. It's something that adults do even in their future. They take time to goal set and figure out what are our next steps? How am I going to make this better? How am I going to make my life better? How am I going to make my learning better? And then lastly, self and peer evaluation. What is one tactic for students, self or peer evaluation, you'd like to incorporate in your classroom? So as you're looking through the self and peer evaluation section, look and see what you would want to bring in, because that will also be very beneficial. And then lastly, rate yourself on today's topic and explain your reasoning. So if you think that I'm going to spearhead this and I'm going to take this and jump into it, I'm ready, give yourself a 4, but be honest with yourself. And we are here for you to learn more. We can sit down with you. We can even come into your classrooms and give you some feedback and give you some tools that will help you and your students. So as you're reading this, After each section, while you're answering the questions, take 10 minutes and we're going to just talk about it with our table, pair, compare, and share. And we're going to do that after every section for about 10 minutes as well. So we're going to spend about 20 minutes on each one. And I really want to hear those conversations going about, well, I do this. Well, how do you do that? How does that work in a sixth grade classroom compared to a second grade classroom if you're sitting with teachers at in a different grade level? And then at the end of the class, please be sure to fill out the survey. I sent it through OneDrive as well. And I hope that you have a fantastic day, and thank you for your time. Bye.